So I know I've been gone for a long time, but I am back. And Remy is back. She's right here and she wants me to love on her. So I will probably be with Remy during this video. But I am back and today we're going to be talking about Natalee Holloway. I don't know if you guys know, but there has recently been an update to Natalee Holloway's case. So if you're interested and you want to know about that a little bit more, then just keep watching. In May of 2005, Natalee Holloway was 18 years old and she was an honors student at Mountain Brook High School and a star on her dance team. She had plans to pursue a pre-med degree at the University of Alabama on a full scholarship. So, Natalee was smart, okay? She was doing a thing. So, before she started her college life, she and her classmates wanted to end the year with a big bang. Around 124 seniors and about 7 adult chaperones got the amazing opportunity to go on a vacation to Aruba to celebrate their graduation. I don't know about you guys, but was your senior class trip to Aruba outside of the country? Did you even get a senior class trip? Like, let me know because I didn't get one. What are they doing in Alabama? What? A lot of people are under the impression that Natalee just went on a friends trip with a couple of her friends and they were just celebrating graduating and they were just out there to have a good time. But like I just told you guys, that's not the case. It was actually a senior class school trip. So there was around 130 of them on the trip. It wasn't just a couple of her friends. People have seen some photos of her and her friends, but no, it was a whole class, guys. It's a bunch of people. On May 26, 2005, this group flew to Aruba and settled in the Holiday Inn Resort near the northern end of the island. They spent days sunbathing and snorkeling while their nights were filled with partying. Now, do not judge them because I know you guys would have done the same thing, all right? You're 18, you're out of the country, you're trying to have a good time, you're gonna party. And especially when the drinking age is only 18, and you're 18 and you're not used to that, you're from America or you're from the United States where the drinking age is 21. Now you go out the country and it's 18. I'm pretty sure you're going to have a good time and take advantage of that. Natalee's friend said, "It was so much fun. We would wake up, go like brush your teeth, go straight to the beach. We would literally stay in the water all day long because it was so perfect. We just hung out with our friends on this beautiful trip." 3 days later, on May 29, 2005, Natalee and her friends were spending their last night at the Excelsior Casino, which was connected to the hotel. On security footage, you can see a man walk in and approach Natalee and her friends at the blackjack table. And he just walks up to them and he's like, "Hey," and she's just like, "Hey." And you could tell that they're just meeting each other. This man was 17-year-old Joran Vandersloot. Joran Vandersloot was a citizen from the Netherlands. He was an honors student just like Natalee, and he was also an athlete at the International School of Aruba. So they kind of had a couple of things in common and they hit it off once they met each other. And they were very interested in each other. Natalee even told Joran to meet up with her later that night at a local night spot called Carlos and Charlie's Bar in downtown Orange Estate. Natalee and Joran drank together, they danced together, then they left the bar together at closing time. Natalee was seen in a silver car with Joran and his two friends, Deepak and Satish Kalpo, and this was around 1 a.m. So the following day, the seniors were set to go home. Everyone packed their bags and they met up in the lobby, which was the meeting spot. But the students noticed that Natalee was not there. They checked her hotel room and they found her passport, her luggage in her room, but there was no Natalee. They searched the whole hotel for her and still nothing. The chaperones were aware that Natalee wasn't able to be found, so they decided to call Natalee's mom, Beth Holloway Twitty. Now, I really like that they did this because as soon as they realized they couldn't find Natalee, they called her mother right away. I would be thankful to get a phone call like that. Like, if you haven't seen my daughter for at least an hour and you're expecting her, oh, I want a phone call right then and there. Because if you can't find her, I'll find her. So there have been many rumors saying that the group, the senior class, they were very disruptive, they were loud partiers, but I really don't know if that's true or not. I mean, it could be true, it couldn't be true. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it appears that they were well behaved, and reports of them being out of control, the chaperones are saying that is false. So I'm not for sure. But however, the police commissioner said this group of students was a very, I don't want to demonize them, but the group really went far, very far, in terms of having a good time, wild partying, a lot of drinking, lots of room switching every night. We know the Holiday Inn told them they weren't welcome next year. Natalee, we know she drank all day, every day. We have statements. She started every morning with cocktails, so much drinking that Natalee didn't show up for breakfast 2 mornings. So, like I said, do what you want with that information. I don't know. So, people were thinking maybe she just got too drunk and ended up somewhere else, or maybe she got too drunk and possibly drowned. I mean, there were so many rumors going around, so many speculations. No one really knew what happened to Natalee. Once Beth is aware that her daughter can't be found, she is freaking out and she needs to find her daughter. I mean, all of us would be doing the same thing. We'd be freaking out. We want to find our daughter. We want to know what happened to her. Let's get her, make sure she's safe. Beth, her husband Judd, and their friends rented a private jet the same day and they landed in Aruba that night. She was not wasting any time. She wanted to find her daughter immediately. They arrive in Aruba and immediately hit the ground running. They start asking everyone questions to find out what happened to Natalee. They find out that Natalee was last seen at Carlos and Charlie's and she left with a guy named Yorin. So her mother's like, okay, we found out this information. Now let's go to the hotel. So they go to the Holiday Inn and then they begin asking questions about Yorin because they want to know who this guy is. Her daughter was last seen with him and now she's missing. So let's find out who he is. So they're at the hotel and they ask the night manager about urine. The security guard said, oh, I know who he is. He's a regular. He's known for going after young tourists that come into town. Beth asked to see the security footage from the casino, and once she saw who he was, she called the police immediately. Natalee's family hunt down information about Urine and find his home address in Nord. Natalee's family and the police went to Urine's house. Now, when I say Natalee's family, I mean like a bunch of them. There were 2 cars filled with just family members. And then on top of that, there's the police. So they go to Urine's house, and when they get there, Urine is outside of the house and he is seen standing in the driveway with Deepak. And also in front of the house was a silver or gray, I think it was silver, was the silver car that Natalee was last seen in. So Urine's father comes outside. His name is Paulus. His father comes outside and he talks to the police before Urine even says anything. The police actually let a person that was not in law enforcement talk to Urine and question him about what happened to Natalee that night. I don't know why they would do this, but they did, and they let him ask questions while his dad was sitting there watching, keeping a close eye on what was going on, because Paulus Vandersloot, that's Urine's father, he was an attorney. He was actually an attorney who was in the process of becoming a judge in Aruba. So this is a powerful attorney now. So Urine, his powerful attorney dad, is talking to the authorities in Aruba. They talk to Urine, and at first he denies knowing Natalee, but then he says, so I snuck out my house and went to see her. She came on to me huge, dancing suggestively like a slut. I did belly shots on her on the bar. He said he did leave the bar with her and his friends. He said that Natalee did sexual things with him while they were in the car. He let them know that they went to a lighthouse because Natalee wanted to see sharks. He said after they dropped her off back at her hotel. He even tells them that a security guard helped Natalee inside of the hotel. So he's adding other people to his story now. And when you add other people into your story, I mean, you have to be telling the truth, right? Because those people aren't going to lie for you. I bet all of their spidey senses went up because first, why are you immediately lying about knowing Natalee? They're like, okay, something's going on with this guy. After they heard what he had to say, meaning the family members of Natalee, they all began yelling at him and saying, tell us where she is. Yoren takes him to the hotel and illustrates where he dropped her off and claimed that she fell and hit her head while she was getting out of his car. He said he tried to help her, but Natalee refused to help. Yoren says as he was driving away, he saw a man in a black shirt who resembled a security guard approach Natalee, and her family was like, okay, if you know who this man is, then show us. He says, okay. So Yoren walks around the hotel looking for the security guard, but fails to find him. I mean, did we think he was going to find him? Way down in the comments. Dave Holloway, Natalee's father, remembers being told by an officer that sometimes tourists just go missing and they miss their flights, and his daughter probably would turn up in a few days. Don't worry about it, bud. But everyone knew that this was not like Natalee. The next day, the family asked the community for help with finding Natalee. Approximately 100 tourists and various locals started searching the area. This search went on for weeks, and the number of people continued to grow. Volunteer teams came from everywhere, including Aruban police, Dutch Marines, and 3 F-16 fighter planes from the Netherlands. The community put yellow bows everywhere for Natalee. You could see that they were hoping to find her. This case drew widespread attention in the United States. It went all the way from Aruba over to the United States. This was widespread, national, international, it was everywhere. They say that this case sparked the media's fascination with missing white women. I was talking to my family about this, and I told them that this is probably the first time I ever heard about true crime or anything like this, because Natalee Holloway was everywhere. This case really caught my attention and opened up a whole new world for me. I mean, look at me now. Look at where I am. I'm here telling you about true crime. Yeah. The authorities spoke with Yoren and Deepak and Satish Kalpo since they were the last people that were seen with Natalee. They told the authorities that they took Natalee to California Lighthouse near the Akashi Beach on the northwest tip of the island to shark watch, because Natalee wanted to see the sharks. Natalee really wanted to see those sharks, so they took her over there to shark watch, and then they dropped her off at her hotel around 2 a.m. the next morning. They claimed they saw a security guard approach Natalee outside the hotel before they drove off. So both people are saying that they saw the security guard with Natalee at her hotel. It was Yoren, now it's all of them saying yes, the security guard was there and he was helping her into the hotel. Around 4 days later, the police arrested 2 security guards from the hotel on possible charges of first or second-degree murder and kidnapping. The authorities said they did not arrest them right away because they were hoping that they would lead them to definitive evidence showing that they were involved with Natalee's disappearance. The police did not have enough evidence to hold the security guards, so they ended up being released shortly after. The authorities searched the beach, then they searched Yoren's house, and they seized 2 vehicles, cameras, and computers. Soon after the police arrested Yoren's father, Paulus Vandersloot, y'all remember him? Paulus Vandersloot, the police arrested him, and then they arrested Steve Gregory Close. I think he was a party boat DJ. I'm not for sure what he had to do with the connection into Natalee, but both of them were arrested, and both of them were released shortly after as well. Natalee's family was being boisterous and loud. They wanted the whole world to know that Natalee disappeared. They were not letting up on anyone. They were going to this media, that media. Over here, they were doing news conferences, press release. They wanted everyone to know that Natalee had disappeared. And I am glad that they did do that, because that's how it should be. They wanted everyone to know that Natalee was missing and who she was last seen with. They brought all this information to the forefront. They brought a lot of pressure onto the police. Everyone was wondering why Yoren and the Kalpo brothers were not arrested, because they were the last ones she was seen with. Everyone wanted to know how come they're still walking out here free and Natalee is still missing. Because of this pressure, on June 9th, 2005, the police arrested Euron and the Cowpo brothers on suspicion of kidnapping and murder. But now the men were changing their story. The brothers admitted to lying to police and told them that they had actually dropped off Euron and Natalee at the beach near the hotel she was staying at the Hotel Inn. They said that Euron was with her and they got out of there. They left. Euron said that he did go to the beach with Natalee and they fooled around a little bit and they looked up, they watched the stars, and then Natalee started to fall asleep and he said, "I see you later." Apparently that's what he did, and he just walked home and left her staring up at the stars, falling asleep on the beach. So that's what Euron said happened. About a month later, the brothers are released, but the judge orders Euron to remain in custody for another 2 months. Clearly, there was more to what was going on here with Euron, and the judge was like, you're gonna stay right here. I'm gonna give you some more time. Dave and Beth felt like finally the case will probably be solved because they were arrested and they're gonna get information, they're gonna find Natalee, and they're finally gonna get answers to what happened. But as more time went by, they realized that it might not be so easy. Natalee's parents were desperately trying to meet up with Euron's parents for weeks to have a talk. There were allegations going around saying that Euron would not be found guilty of the crime because his father was his powerful attorney. Beth finally gets to meet up with Paulus, which is Euron's father, and he invites her inside. She sits down with Paulus and Anita. Anita is Euron's mother, and she expressed to them how she's feeling and what she's been going through. And while she's saying all of this, Anita is just crying and sobbing, and Paulus is just sweating like profusely. He's just sitting there and he's just dripping in sweat. Beth got a feeling that he knew what happened to her daughter. Natalee's family offered a $200,000 reward for Natalee's safe return and a $100,000 reward for any information that could lead to the truth of what happened to Natalee. The award eventually went to $1 million by the end of July if Natalee came home alive. While searching for Natalee, authorities found a hair stuck to a piece of duct tape on Aruba's northeast coast, and they sent it over to the Quantico Lab in Virginia, over in the US. You know, the Quantico Lab. If you watch Criminal Minds, you know what I'm talking about. So they sent it over there, and the test came back that it was actually not a match to Natalee. Natalee's DNA was not on there. So a few days later, the police were actually given a tip saying that they had seen Euron and the Cowpos digging next to a nearby hotel over there. And the authorities investigated this, but the claim didn't come to anything. Nothing was found. Beth had stayed in Aruba for 2 months by this time, just looking for her daughter. Around 2 months later, in November, the Cowpo brothers were arrested again for Natalee's disappearance, but then they were released with Euron on the grounds that they would make themselves available to the police. So they were arrested, I believe, twice so far, the Cowpo brothers. The lead officer releases the statement, "The investigation continues. The case of Natalee Holloway has not concluded with these releases."
Vandersloot, questioned at the time, denying involvement.
Yeah, the last time I saw her, she was sitting on the sand by the ocean.
Now Beth returns to the United States, and Natalee's family tries to file a lawsuit against Euron in New York City for malicious, wanton, and willful disregard of the rights, safety, and well-being of Natalee. In the suit, they say that Paulus, Euron's father, enabled Euron's predatory behavior. This suit was later dismissed by a judge who determined that the local taxpayers would not be interested in seeing the case through. Euron's mother, Anita Vandersloot, said although she initially denied her son had anything to do with Natalee's disappearance, Euron's story changed constantly, which made her uncertain. She always knew that there was a dark side to her son. She said maybe he missed his chance to become an actor. Maybe that should have been a role in his life. I really don't know. I can hardly believe that he can fake this. Apparently, according to Anita, Euron had a mental health issue when he was younger. He was always spending his nights gambling at casinos, and he would do it persistently. Now, I don't know if I buy her saying that her son had a mental health issue, but I do believe the fact that he has a gambling issue, because when I tell you what you're about to hear, I think that you would think that he has a gambling addiction as well. So far, no information has been found about Natalee's whereabouts. At this point, she has been missing for 10 months. The authorities said witnesses had told them Natalee was drinking heavily that night and had drugs in her possession. Even though no one said that they saw her taking any drugs, they still said that, but no one saw her do it. They said, "We feel strongly that she probably went into shock or something happened to her system with all the alcohol. Maybe on top of that, other drugs, which either she took or they gave to her, and that she just collapsed." In March of 2006, Euron does an interview with Greta Van Susteren. I believe that's how you say it, Greta Van Susteren. Euron recounts the details of his time with Natalee. He says that the night they were drinking at the bar and went to the beach, but he says that he left her there. Nothing came of this interview after he said it. Everyone was just like, oh, he's doing a public interview. It's a paid interview. He needs money. He's glorifying his infamous fame, and, stuff like that.
Then she said, okay, so let's take another shot, is what she told me. So she wanted to take a shot with me, but it was probably close to 1 a.m. there then, and that bar was closing. So I said, okay, well, we can go to the other bar. And then I asked her, what do you want to drink? And she's like, whatever. So she said, yeah. She said, what do you suggest? And I said, Bacardi 151, because that's a shot I normally take with my friends. And we took a shot together. And after that, we just were talking a while. I saw Satish, and Satish said, let's go. And then Deepak, I don't know where he was. I didn't see him in caution charge.
So later that year, Natalee's family files a wrongful death lawsuit against the Calpo brothers. They filed this lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court, but a judge dismissed it due to lack of jurisdiction. I just want you guys to remember that what happened to Natalee, whatever happened to Natalee, happened in Aruba, and it wasn't in the United States. So that's probably why the judge got rid of that. So now that has been 2 lawsuits that have been dismissed, and no one's arrested. It's just nothing has happened. Nothing. We still don't have Natalee. No one's arrested for anything, and we don't have any information. A year later now, so it's around November of 2007, all 3 of them are arrested again because the police claim they have new incriminating evidence. But, however, the evidence fails to move the case forward, and they are all released once again. They're all released once again.
Not long after, he sat down with ABC News for an exclusive interview.
Did you kill Natalee Holloway?
No.
Did you harm Natalee Holloway?
No.
And why should you be believed after all the lying that you've done in this situation?
There's absolutely no reason to believe me.
I know this is annoying. They arrested Euron twice. They arrested the Calpo brothers 3 times, and they just keep getting released. Nothing is coming of it. It's getting you excited, like, oh, maybe this time, or maybe they're gonna find Natalee, and then they're just released. And then your hopes just go down. Like, what is going on? What is going on? They keep arresting them, but they don't have the proper evidence to keep them into custody. During this time, the authorities were investigating Natalee's disappearance and conducting searches, but they didn't find anything, and they decided to close the case. Over the years, the Twitties have accused the Arubian police of corruption. Meanwhile, the police have accused the Twitties of hindering their investigation. But they did agree on one thing, that they believe that Euron knew something and probably had something to do with it. In February of 2008, a Dutch reporter goes undercover and befriends Euron to get information on what happened to Natalee. Everyone is invested in this case. They want to know what happened to her. I mean, it was widespread, everywhere, national, international. It was everywhere. Everyone wants to know what happened to Natalee. So this guy goes undercover, and he's going to find out what happens. So he wears a hidden camera, and he talks to Euron, and he asked him about Natalee. And Urine says that Natalee collapsed when they were on the beach together and he was unable to revive her. He says that he had a friend help him dispose of her body from a boat.
I just think that I'm incredibly lucky that she's never been found.
After this, Urine was told that their conversation was recorded, and then he just backtracks and says that what he was saying was a lie. He was lying about the whole entire thing. After the authorities were aware of this, they actually reopened Natalee's case again. So I know this is kind of like, oh, you're still sitting here telling lies, but if you didn't tell this lie, then Natalee's case wouldn't have been reopened. So I'm kind of glad he did want the attention and he was still telling lies. During the same year, Urine does a paid interview with Fox News. He has another news story about what happened to Natalee, and he says that he sold her off into an slavery for a bag of cash on the beach.
He was interested in me bringing him a blonde girl.
Anything offered in exchange for?
Yeah, he offered me money.
And what did you say?
I said, okay, sure.
But later he retracts his statement. Are we surprised? Please let me know. Are you surprised? Because I'm not surprised. I just want to give you a little bit more background information on Urine. I don't think this information has been confirmed with court documents, but during my research I found this and I want you guys to know. So apparently a Dutch crime reporter said in 2007 Urine was trying to sell young Thai women to S clubs, little or whatever. So in 2007, Urine went to Thailand on a student visa. While he was attending Raksit University, at night he would pose as a talent scout for a modeling agency. So he was doing this and he promised women that they would get a position at a high-end dance nightclub where they would be dancers. Allegedly, he would sell them to Dutch S rings instead. So he promised them one thing, but he was doing another thing and he was getting money for it. Have we seen this pattern before? Yes. But like I said, it's all allegedly. It said that he earned about $13,000 per person. Now, I don't know if this is all true, but like I said, it's allegedly. But he was never charged with any of this, so just take this with a grain of salt. But I just wanted you guys to know, just so you can have a little bit more information. So we can clearly see that Urine is having fun with the family and the media by saying these different stories and making it seem like he doesn't actually have anything to do with what happened to Natalee. I also forgot to tell you guys that he actually co-wrote a book about Natalee's disappearance. And he claims he didn't have anything to do with her disappearance. Could you even imagine if you were her parents? Seeing the person you believe harmed your daughter, getting arrested, then released multiple times, over and over again. And then he's telling stories about what could have happened to her. He's going to the media. He's telling you. He's doing all this stuff. He's just telling people like, oh, this happened. And he's like, I'm just joking. That didn't happen. For what? Like, why are you getting pleasure out of this? He's a sick person. And if you want to top it all off, Urine sends an email to Twitty's lawyer and tells them that he will let them know where Natalee's body is if they give him $25,000 up front and another $225,000 after. The family agrees to this because they so desperately want to find Natalee. So they arrange to meet up with him, but they also let the FBI know what's going on and their plan. So the FBI is involved at this time. 2 months later, the Twitties set up a meeting with Urine and Aruba, and they give him $10,000 for information about Natalee. The authorities were recording this encounter the entire time just to have evidence. Urine leads them to a house where he claims that his father, Paulus, you guys remember Paulus, right? You remember Paulus. Paulus buried Natalee in its foundation. Now, this is convenient because Paulus had recently passed away due to a heart attack, so why not blame him, right? He's not alive to say that, no, this isn't true. Beth wires an additional $15,000 to Urine, and after he receives this money, he lets him know through an email that he was lying the whole time. Once again, Urine is lying. Who would have thunk it?
It's exactly what happened. He knows what, where, when, who, why, and how. he knows the answers.
He is accused of extorting thousands from Holloway's mother, Beth, in exchange for details on the location of her daughter's remains. According to legal documents in March 2010, Vandersloot, quote, offered to take the cooperating witness to the location of Natalee Holloway's body, advised as to the circumstances of her death, and identify those in her death and disappearance in return for a payment of $250,000. Papers were signed, a total of $25,000 was given to Vandersloot, and Holloway's attorney flew to Aruba. Vandersloot took the attorney to a house saying her body was buried within the foundation. Soon after fleeing to Peru with the $25,000, he emailed the Holloways saying, quote, he had lied about the location of Natalee's remains.
Told a lot of different stories. I'll do it again.
He takes the money and he goes to Peru to participate in a poker tournament. See, there goes that gambling addiction. I told you guys that I thought he had. Yeah, I think he has a gambling addiction. The Twitties learned that the house that Urine told them that Natalee's body is under wasn't even constructed until after Natalee's disappearance. While Urine is in Peru for the poker tournament that Natalee's family helped pay for, he ends up ending the life of a 21-year-old business student named Stephanie Flores Ramirez. Exactly 5 years to the day after Natalee vanished, May 30th, 2010, he met Stephanie at the casino in Lima, Peru, and he brought her back to his hotel room where he ended up ending her life by beating and strangling her. Her body wasn't immediately found because Urine had left instructions forbidding the hotel staff from entering his room. Urine didn't get away with this for long because the next month, on June 3rd, he was arrested for Stephanie's murder in Chile. When he was captured, he was found in a taxi with a new short red hairdo. He was taken back to Lima, Peru, and held in high security prison. Later that month, Urine is indicted on federal charges for wire fraud and extortion. This stemmed from the attempt that he made to get $250,000 from the Twitties. The authorities informed the public that Urine wasn't arrested right after this happened because there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to arrest him. I guess after he ends the life of another woman, there is plenty of evidence now. Urine confesses to ending the life of Stephanie and apologizes. The prosecution believed he ended her life because he wanted to steal her earnings from the casino that night, because you know, they were at the casino, gambling, hanging out, or whatever. Urine said that Stephanie accessed his laptop without his permission and found evidence of him being in connection with Natalee's disappearance. Now, I don't know if it was evidence or articles or whatever, but she saw that he was in connection with Natalee's disappearance. And he said because of this and what she found and all the accusations and the pressure from the case, he said, I did not want to do it. The girl intruded into my private life. She had no right. I confronted her. She was frightened. We argued, and she wanted to get away. I grabbed her by the neck, and I hit her.
Remember that surveillance video shows that he brought Stephanie to the hotel in the early morning hours on Sunday, May 30th. He's seen leading her past the front desk as he takes his keys. She walks behind him, her back to the camera. Moments later, upstairs, another camera captures them walking into Urine's room. This is the last time Stephanie is seen alive. 4 hours later, Urine leaves the hotel room alone, wearing a different shirt. He walks through the lobby carrying 2 bags. Stephanie's body is discovered in that hotel room 3 days later.
He received a 28-year prison sentence for Stephanie's death and was ordered to pay $75,000 in reparations to the Flores family. Shortly after this, Natalee's father, Dave, has the court to declare Natalee dead against Beth's wishes. When Urine is in prison, he gets married and he has a daughter. How ironic. Look at that. His life is still going on while Natalee is missing and Stephanie is dead. That's terrible. In 2016, Urine's old friend John Ludwig claims he helped Urine dispose of Natalee's body in 2010. 2 years later, he tried to kidnap a woman in Florida right out of her driveway, and she actually ended up killing him in self-defense. She ended up stabbing him. I hope you guys are able to keep up with me with all the different people and what's going on. I know it's a lot. It was a lot for me when I was doing my research. It's kind of hard to follow, but I hope you guys are following along. In 2017, a docuseries about Natalee's disappearance comes out, and in it we believe that we will find out where Natalee's remains are. But it was actually just false hope, and Beth was really upset about this, and she actually ended up suing the docuseries. In May of this year, 2023, the Peru authorities finally agreed to surrender Urine to the United States to face the charges of extortion and wire fraud. Y'all remember when he was indicted for those charges back in 2010? It's finally catching up to him 13 years later.
And her disappearance is being extradited to the United States. Joran Vandersloot, who was one of the last people to see Holloway alive and twice detained in connection with her disappearance, will finally face federal charges in the U.S. for extortion and wire fraud.
Poor Natalee's mom says it has been a very long and painful journey, but the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we're finally getting justice for Natalee. Joran initially pleads not guilty, then later pleads guilty to the charges. Now remember, we're talking about extortion and wire fraud charges. This does not have to do with Natalee's disappearance, not murder charges or kidnapping, even though we presume that Natalee was, murdered.
Major twist in the Natalee Holloway case. Joran Vandersloot is due in court this morning and now expected to plead guilty to extorting money from Holloway's mother. Ariel Reship joins us now with more on this story for us. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Robin. That potential plea deal in an Alabama federal courtroom later this morning could help piece together the mystery of what happened to Natalee Holloway nearly 2 decades ago.
Instead, he works out a deal that would benefit him. Now listen to this. He says he will plead guilty to these charges to get a lesser sentence in exchange for sharing information about what happened to Natalee. So he makes a proffer. A proffer is when a defendant offers information they know about a crime, often as part of his plea deal. So he made a proffer so he can get this in exchange and not get so much time. You following? Okay, so that's what he did. Now, my first thought was, how is he going to give this proffer and say what happened when he's been saying what happened all these years, but he's been lying the entire time? Who's going to believe him, right? That was my first thought. But apparently he agreed to say what happened to her while he slipped up to a polygraph. Now, we all know about how polygraphs work. They're not always accurate. They're not always reliable. You're able to beat one if you're able to control your body, but they usually say it depends on the polygrapher. It's like lawyers. There are some good ones, there are some bad ones, and it doesn't really matter if you're innocent or if you're guilty. It matters how good your lawyer is. And the same goes for polygraphers. So Joran finally gives a confession of what happened, an honest confession of what happened that night. He says that him and Natalee were dropped off by the beach by Deepak and Satish, the 2 friends in the beginning. Yes, they said that they dropped them off, and he says this is true, and apparently this is true. They really didn't have anything to do with the disappearance of Natalee. So they dropped them off and they left them alone there. Joran says that they were laying in the sand and they began kissing each other. He started to fill her up and she said, "No, I don't want you to do that." But Joran says that he insisted and he kept doing it. Then she kneed him in the crotch and he actually stood up and kicked her extremely hard in the face. He said he believed she went unconscious at this point and she was possibly dead. He said he saw a huge cinder block next to her and he picked it up and smashed it on her head. He said her face was collapsed in, and after seeing what he had done, he began to panic and he was scared, so he half pulls her, half walks her towards the beach, and then he just pushes her into the ocean.
She asked to go back to her hotel, but I was just trying to get dropped off a little bit further away from her hotel so we could walk back to her hotel and I might still get a chance to be with her.
Okay.
That's what I was hoping for.
Okay. So what happens?
Deepak drops me off at a place a little right of the Marriott hotel known as the Fisherman's Huts. This place is not so far from, the next hotel is the Marriott, and the next hotel after that is another Marriott, which is a timeshare, and then it's the Holiday Inn. Well, we walk along the beach.
All right. Do Deepak and Satish get out? Come with you? What happens to them?
Deepak and Satish leave. They leave. They go back to their home. I assume they go back to their home. They get in their car and they leave. I'm actually with Natalee walking along the beach. I find a space before we get to the Marriott hotel, where I lay her down. We lay down together in the sand, and we start kissing each other. I get her to kiss me again. We start kissing each other, and I start feeling her up again. And she tells me no. She tells me she doesn't want me to feel her up. I insist. I keep feeling her up either way. And she knees me. She ends up kneeing me in the crotch. When she knees me in the crotch, I get up on the beach and I kick her extremely hard in the face. Yeah, she's laying down unconscious, possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious. And I see right next to her there's a huge cinder block laying on the beach.
When you say cinder block, looking at the walls of this place, is it like those?
The exact same cinder blocks. I see a huge cinder block laying on the beach. I take this and I smash her head in with it completely. Her face basically, collapses in. Even though it's dark, I can see her face is collapsed in. Afterwards, I don't exactly know what. I'm scared. I don't know what to do, and I decide to take her and to put her into the ocean. So I grab her and I half pull and half walk with her into the ocean. I push her off. I walk up to about my knees into the ocean, and I push her off into the sea. After that I get out. I walk home.
It's better than closure because our never-ending nightmare had to end, and we are so grateful that we can say that today.
In Beth's impact statement, she said, "You look like hell, Yoren. I do not see how you're going to make it." Good for you, Beth. Good for you. Yoren told Natalee's family and loved ones, "I would like to take this chance to apologize to the Holloway family, to apologize to my own family, to say I hope that the statement I provided brings some kind of closure to everyone involved. I am no longer that person I was back then. P.S. I just want you guys to know that her family knew that this was bullshit. They didn't believe a word that came out of his mouth, and they did not accept his apology." The judge says, "I've considered your confession to the brutal murder of Natalee Holloway. You have brutally murdered in separate incidences, years apart, two beautiful women who refused your sexual advances. Yoren was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the extortion and wire fraud charges. This term will run concurrently with his Peruvian sentence, which means he will do his 28 years for Stephanie's murder and the 20 years for extortion at the same time. Natalee Holloway's remains have still never been found."
Today, I can tell you with certainty that after 18 years, Natalee's case is solved. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. It's over. Joran Vandersloot is no longer the suspect in my daughter's murder. He is the killer. In the course of his felony prosecution, here for extortion and wire fraud indictment, he gave a proffer in which he finally confessed that he killed Natalee. He described when and how he killed her. He said that after killing her on the beach in Aruba, he put her into the water, and that was the last that he ever saw her. That was all verified by a comprehensive and conclusive polygraph test. Even with this confession, though, he can't be tried here for Natalie's murder. But I'm satisfied knowing that he did it alone, and he disposed of her alone.
This case is still an open investigation. A spokesperson for the Aruba Public Prosecutor's Office did not rule out the possibility that Urine could face new legal action in Aruba after he confessed to ending the life of Natalee. Aruban authorities said, "We have requested the U.S. Department of Justice for official court documents and transcripts and all documents related to the investigation, which we will review before deciding on the procedural steps to be taken." Just a little note here, in addition to his 28-year prison sentence for ending the life of Stephanie and the 20-year prison sentence for extortion, he also was convicted in 2021 for trafficking the white powder, the stuff, into Peruvian prison. For this, he would be sentenced to an additional 18 years in Peru. He is scheduled to be released from prison in Peru in June 2045. So guys, tell me what you think about this case. Do you think his confession was actually real this time? I mean, he's told so many stories. Do you believe it? Do you believe the polygraph? Do you think he's telling the truth? What do you think about this new update in the Natalee Holloway case? I mean, it's 2023. This happened in 2005. Do you guys, what do you guys think? I need to know your thoughts. Please leave your comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. I mean, you want to say bye? Bye, guys.